Welcome to episode 36 of the Chef Fit podcast. Who are you killing yourself for, Chef? That is the topic for today. Before we do dive into that, though, I'm just checking in with my man in the fucking Leeds jersey, POB.
Hoorah. Hoorah.
What's the fuck,
All right.
chap? How we doing?
Yeah, we've done one episode for every year I've been on this green planet. Good shit. Good
The
shit.
Silver Fox strikes again. This is
There he goes.
centenary, this episode.
Yeah, all good, man. How's yourself?
Good, man. Good. Hands a bit fucking mangled. My knuckles been at me for a while. But again, it's affected my training a little bit. Haven't been able to do a massive amount of upper body. Unfortunately, haven't been able to do much jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, unfortunately. So I've just been fucking working around it, man, to be honest. I've been doing my lower body, been doing my running, getting my cardio in when I can. And I think it's a good example of, like, even if you are injured and even if there's something going on, you can choose to make the excuse, or you can just fucking do something about it. Do you know what I mean? And try and get it done. That was something I never would have done that before, you know, and it's something I've had to fucking, obviously with training the group and coaching the group, it's something that it's a mindset thing that I've had to adopt. It's like, no matter what, you got to fucking get it done. So that's been the story for the past week or two. Good on that front. What's your story at the moment?
I got my PB again on my 5K in the week. That was great. I've taken now a total of 2 minutes and 2 seconds in 6 weeks off the time. So I'm smashing through it.
That's mad.
Yeah.
That's mad. I thought you were
going
to say a year, and I was like, nah, definitely more than that. And it's like,
no, it's pushing on 20 minutes off my time in a year.
Yeah, Jesus.
Probably because I'm brand new to it. You know what I mean?
Down the fucking stairs a year ago.
But what you're saying about when you get hurt and you just train something else, back in the day, if I got hurt, even at the start of Chef Fit, if I hurt my leg or something, I'd be like, well, I can't do anything now. And you'd be like, no, well, you can still do this, that, or the other.
Totally.
Yeah, big time.
They did massive, a study on this, man. They did a study on it years ago. There was a study. I remember reading a book. It was a book I read as a fucking strength and conditioning coach who I really love reading his stuff. I can't remember his fucking name. I think his name's Alan. He's a Welsh lad. Anyway.
Yeah, just go Alan.
Yeah, but he had this whole section on psychology, and this is fucking fascinating to me, and the power of the mind and all of these things, and, you know, even how your body responds to certain things in extreme situations. And he was talking about when people broke limbs. So, like, let's say someone broke their arm, and they tested two groups. So everyone broke their arm, but they basically made one group of them exercise the other arm, and then they made the other group do fuck all. And the results that they had were fairly mad, because traditionally you would think, oh, well, if I just train the one side, that's going to get overpowered, and then this side's going to be weak as fuck. That's what you would logically think. But what happened was the first group who did the training on the other side, they stopped the muscular atrophy, which means that the broken limb, basically reduced how much that broken limb's muscles atrophied, which means the muscle degenerated. So it was some mental statistic, like it might have been 50% less atrophy.
So it sped up the recovery process because they were still active and working out.
Which indirectly sped up the recovery process, and it stopped that muscle growing smaller. Like, I remember breaking my right ankle, and it was like, when I took that, I didn't do fuck all when I broke my ankle, and then obviously I was much younger, and I took off the cast, and it's like, I already have small calves. Fuck me, that was my right leg after, you know what I mean? Because I did nothing. Whereas if I have actually just trained the left leg, and maybe not instantaneously, but I'm trying to fucking do something with it, or I'm coming in and I'm doing a few leg extensions or whatever, that actually would have helped the recovery, and it would have stopped the muscle wastage on my broken side. So it's like that whole idea of how your body responds, you're always better off doing something rather than nothing. You know what I mean?
That's fucked up, isn't it?
It's mad. Your body responds in a very weird way. Here's another one before we move into this episode. 100 people where they were doing a test on the placebo. So the placebo is the power of, you know what I mean? The power of intention and thought. Like, does what your mind perceive, does that actually impact how your body reacts? Because most people are like, no, that's bullshit. But if you actually believe it to be true, what happens to your body? That I think it was a study, 200 people were given, or might have been 100, were given a sugar water solution. So like a little bit of water, a few spoons of sugar, mix it up, and they were given this solution. And they were given the solution, they were told that if you drink this, you're going to get a migraine headache. And what happened was, I believe it was 95 of those 100 people developed headaches after drinking sugar water solution. 5 of them didn't really believe it. 95 of them did, and they developed the headache because they believed they would get a headache. You wouldn't get a headache from drinking sugar water. At all. You wouldn't. It wouldn't happen. Logically, that's the power of the mind, you know?
Placebo was fascinating.
It's mad. It's fucking mental. So with that in mind, that takes us into the episode today. And that is, who the fuck are you killing yourself for, chef? You know? And this whole idea of being able to do something as opposed to nothing. So who are you killing yourself for? I see this in the group. Me and Peter were talking about this before this episode, and we were having like thinking about like what does this really mean? For a lot of chefs, and Peter can jump in here, it's like for a lot of chefs, you kill yourself in your career to no end, for nobody, or for people who don't give a flying fuck about you. And the only people to suffer are you and your family and your kids. Now, Peter, what had sparked you to think about this? What had sparked you to go, this is actually an interesting question?
Yeah, well, since I stepped away from the restaurant game, I haven't been around chefs that are doing them type of hours and working in that type of situation. And now that my circle of chefs is actually bigger now than any time I ever worked in a restaurant or any kitchen, I'm seeing more of the old patterns come up. And then you see people will come up, they'd realize what's going on, and they make the changes, they get that work-life balance on the go, and then new people will come in and you see it again. And you kind of see this stark contrast of the different types of chef. And then there were chefs saying I was working 70 hours, 80 hours, 90 hours a week for this, and I couldn't get any training done. I haven't seen this person that amount of time. I haven't had time to work out. I haven't had time to eat right. And I was thinking about it on the bike on the way home, and I was asking the question, I said, who are you doing this for? Who are you literally killing yourself for? Because the industry, the game, it does kill chefs. And the first question was, are you doing it for yourself? And you know, are you doing it for your career? That was the first one where you're thinking like that could be what angle somebody is thinking about it for. But you know, are you doing it for your wife? No chance. Your wife doesn't want you to be gone for 90% of her waking time. Are you doing it for your kids? Hell no. Your kids want to see it. I missed out on my first kids everything, and I didn't miss out on the second one mostly. So I know for a fact you're not doing it for your kids. Even when you say you are, you're not, because your kids need you present more than they need the money that you can bring in from a shitty restaurant chef job, or even a good restaurant hotel chef job.
So what is it then if it's not family, and if it's not, you know what I mean, if it's not the relationship, not the kids, and it's not providing, what do you think it is?
Well, I don't know anymore. I know from when I was there, I always thought I was doing it for myself, for my career, for my wife, for my kids, for the future. But I wasn't on point with that thinking. The only person that I was doing that for was my employer. Yeah. And my employer didn't give a rat's that I was killing myself for them. No employer does. No employer that I ever had did. But if I go to my employer and go, I'm really tired, what's he going to say to you? He's not going to entertain it for a second. I haven't seen my wife in 3 weeks. Well, what do you want to do? There's $200 tonight. You want to take the night off? You can't take the night off. I need a week off. You can't. We've no staff. 2 people walked out last week. Why did they walk out? Because they got fucking smart and they seen what was going on in front of them.
And I think this is the other part of this is the ego. So before we move forward from that, I think your ego justifies everything. It really does. It justifies everything. And the ego that a lot of chefs have is, I'm a fucking chef. This is the way it is. And I fucking do all the hours and I can hack it. So,
Chef life.
yeah, exactly. That fucking bollocks. So when you've got that belief or that identity around yourself, you'll break your bollocks for people who don't give a fuck about you, who try and facilitate, who feed into that. You know what I mean? So, like, I guarantee for the amount of people that I've worked for, the amount of people that you've worked for, everyone's out for themselves. Everyone's out for themselves. And when it comes to a fucking industry like this, unless you are beyond a shadow of a doubt guaranteed that those people give a fuck about you and they'd actually take care of you, and they do take care of you, like, if you're killing yourself for someone who actually works you 80, 90 hours a week, who makes you feel guilty for asking for holidays, who doesn't pay you correctly, who fucking calls you in on days off, doesn't respect your time with yourself, your fucking missus, or your husband, or your family, your kids, all of those things. They don't respect any of that. Why the fuck are you doing it for them? Because here's the thing. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it to appease your own ego. You're doing it because you're a martyr to the cause. You're doing it because you believe that this is the industry and this is the fucking way it is, which is bullshit. The industry is massively unfair, but it's like, and I get that. And the way restaurants do businesses in the good majority of places is fucking bullshit. It's unfair. It's archaic. It's old school. But that doesn't mean you have to accept that. That doesn't mean you have to take that on the fucking chin and just carry on and live this life of quiet desperation and misery and make the people who depend on you suffer. They make you, like, literally make the people around you suffer because you're a chef. And yeah, sure, well, I'm not here on Christmas Day. Well, it's like, why the fuck aren't you there on Christmas Day? You know, will I work in the fucking hotel? Well, it's like, man, chef, it's like,
none of this is compulsory. The amount of times, like, you don't have to. That's the long and short of it. You do not have to do them hours. You don't have to work in that place. You don't have to be in that kitchen.
Totally. 100%. But it's a badge of honor. It's like they actually, like, the ego makes you appease that shit where you're kind of going, well, I want to be known as the chef who fucking is able to do 120 hours a week, which is bollocks. We've heard that several times in the group from people. Obviously, it's a busy season for a lot of restaurants, and some of the chefs who are in elite who are doing a lot of hours, it's always well, I've done 120 hours this week, so I haven't fucking been able to get much done. And it's like, number one, that's not true. It's probably like 80 or 90 hours, and you've just added 20 or 30 there just to make your point seem more fucking, believable. But the reality is, if you're doing 120 hours, that means you're doing, I think I calculated it, it's close to 18 hours a day, 7 days in a row.
7 days.
So if you're doing 18 hours a day, 7 days in a row, there's a very good chance that either you're a moron or you need to go and punch your fucking employer in the face and hand in your notice. Either of
them. That's chef de parties and sous chefs, even a head chef, if they're getting a half decent, what is perceived as a half decent salary, and they're working 10 hours, you're coming out with less than the floor staff. You're getting 10, 11 euro an hour.
Totally. Most of the floor staff are coming in fucking making, any of the times I've worked floor in places, like the tips you're getting in, I've worked in places where there's fair sharing of tips between front of house and the kitchen. And I've also been in places where the chefs get fucking bummed over tips and they get fucked over. And it's like, you easily I see in front of house staff come in, do an 8-hour shift and walk away with like 150 quid in tips in a night on a fucking, 150, 200 quid on a Saturday night. You know what I mean? So they're walking away with their wage and that for about 8 to 9 hours work, 250 to 300 quid. You know what I mean? And it's like,
walk in the door and then walk out the door. Walk in for a service and then walk out the door when you're done.
Yeah, totally. Now, it's not that I don't like the narrative of front of house or the fucking evil. I don't get, like, I've worked fucking managed bars. I've fucking worked in, catering in the kitchen, whatever. Like I've done fucking 16, 18-hour days as front of house staff. But the reality is the chef gets fucked over a lot of the time financially, and that's a fucking problem. Now, when you feel you're being fucked with hours and you're being fucked financially, and you ask yourself who the fuck you're doing it for, it's like, if you're not doing it to further your career and you're a young chef, you know what I mean? then I question what you're doing in general. Do
Mm.
you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like when you've got responsibility on the table. Like my brother doesn't have kids. He's cooking at the top level. He doesn't have kids. He's not married. So it's like he could he's in his early 30s. He's at the point now where he's like, I am make or break it. I'm going to fucking destroy myself and cook at the highest level I can and fucking do these insane hours. So in 5 years, I can fucking step back from my business and go, okay, cool. That's a very select few. But
he's found the balance himself.
Totally.
With his diet and training transformation over the last couple of years.
Very good point. Very good point.
And then we also have people like Mr. Jackson in our group who is battling against the industry 24/7, and he can get it done.
Yeah.
But these are outliers.
Yeah, outliers. 100%.
And so many people just use it then as an excuse to not getting it done, as well as for not seeing, or they say as a reason for them not seeing their wife and kids and their family at home.
Yeah, which I don't. I think that's a pass the buck moment. I think that's a real. I think that's a fucking. It's a shirking responsibility. So it's like, you know yourself. If you're missing,
so it's like I don't see my wife because I'm at work. It's like no. You don't see your wife because
you've made a bad choice to be.
Yeah, you have made that decision to work there and to do that for them hours and for that money.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's like this, right? When you make that career choice, it's like having a bucket that you're filling with water. You know what I mean? When like your work situation is so bad that it's like you pour all this energy, all this fucking work, all this passion into your career. But when you accept those conditions, it's like having a bucket with a hole in the bottom. So it doesn't matter how much fucking water you throw in, you're always going to have a leak. And you're doing the same thing in your career right now. You're putting so much into this bucket, but like the bucket's fucked. So it's like, bro, you need to get a new bucket. That thing's got a fucking hole in it. It's like if you're doing 100 hours a week and you're getting fucking absolutely raped financially and you're probably getting the equivalent to minimum wage for killing yourself and you're missing out on your fucking family or you're missing out in your relationship, very, very good chance you need to get a new bucket, you know? And the first step to fixing that problem is understanding that you chose the bucket. You walked into the shop and you went, I'll take that one. And now you think the only option you have is this fucking bucket in front of you. When what you can actually do is, it's not as easy as this, but you can fucking throw that thing in the bin and you can go and look for a new bucket. You know what I mean? And what have you got to lose by looking for something else? Fuck all. But like the only thing that you're going to gain back is time, energy, fucking, you know, headspace, quality time, all the things that, especially as you get older, and but you could speak far more from experience than I can, Peter, but it's like you free up time for the things that are important to you. Like I realize, and I'm younger than you, but I still understand being in a, you know what I mean, a long-term relationship, that shit doesn't fucking work unless I cultivate something within it. You know what I mean? And I speak about alignment all the time. I used to be a very selfish, self-centered, and I am quite selfish already because and I'll be honest about that, because I focus on myself a lot and sorting my own shit out. But as I've developed that, I've also taken, okay, cool, long-term relationship. I realized that if I just put 98% of my focus into work and career, and I don't put any focus into my relationship's going to go to shit. She's going to resent me. We're going to fight all the time. And eventually it'll be over and I'll be fucking alone. And I knew that could have happened. So what I did was I decided to actually structure my life in a way where I make time for things. I could work 16 hours a day, but I don't want to fucking work 16 hours a day. Do you know why? Because that's a hiding to nothing. And if you want to be put on a fucking path to misery, go and do those 16, 18-hour days, multiple weeks in a row. I've been there. He's fucking been there. Guess where it gets you? Nowhere. Miserable. Like actually hating life. Actually hating it. I used to walk into work with my fucking fist clenched. That's how angry I used to be and frustrated and pissed off. Cameron, how's life at the moment? Shit. How's work? Shit. You know what I mean? That was my attitude. Like I made a choice to do that. So when I created this thing and I had my own fucking control of my life and what my routines are going to be, It does, like, I would rather have, even if my business doesn't, and this movement and chef, it doesn't grow as quickly as I would like. That's fine, because I'm making time for my relationships. I'm making time for family. I'm making time for developing shit in my own life, like doing jiu-jitsu or going and doing something in the evening that I haven't had the chance to do my entire life. And fuck me, I'm happier as a result. So much happier. So, and I look at other people who do similar things to what I do. They don't fucking coach chefs, but I look at other, and I know some colleagues who are very driven. They're obsessive, and I can be obsessive, but I look at them and they're fucking miserable. And they started getting good at coaching and helping people to create something that gave them freedom, but they turned out being slaves to it, the same way a lot of chefs are. And I look at them and it's like, you're never off. You're on 24/7. You never stop thinking about your fucking business. Your relationships are shit. You've got no fucking friends. You got no hobbies. So what the fuck's life? You know what I mean? Like, everyone has we're so obsessed with being busy. We're so obsessed with fucking, oh, well, I'm doing all these hours and I don't have time for that. Sure, I've got fucking this and that going on. Why are you so fucking obsessed with being busy? Where the fuck's that ever got you? You know what I mean? Where the fuck has that ever got you?
Mm-hmm.
You need to look at what you really want in your life. And if you really want to be happy, a lot of the times burning the fuck out of yourself and achieving accolades isn't happiness. It's not. Not. And I'm someone who's very ambitious, very driven, and I'm trying to push this thing forward. But what I've realized in being ambitious and driven is that I never enjoyed moments. I never enjoyed the day. I never embraced seized the fucking moment. Like, it was
even the victories.
Yeah, I never relished anything. It was always like, I'll achieve this thing and then it's on to the fucking next thing. I'll do this and everything will be fine when I get to here. And then when I got there, I didn't get that feeling I was looking for. So I'm always chasing this fucking thing on the horizon. And for you, chef, you're going to do the same shit, where it's like, it'd be great when I just, if I get 1 rosette, 2 rosette, 3 rosette, if I get 1 star, if I get fucking 2 stars, I'll work my way up here to sous chef, and then I'll fucking eventually move to head chef, and then I'll open my own place. It's always that thing down the fucking line. But what will happen is 15 years will fucking roll in, and then you'll go, what the fuck, man? What did I do? Shit. That is what you need to avoid. You need to avoid that. Who are you killing yourself for? Because if you're just killing yourself to appease your ego and because you're just a chef and that's just how things work, I call bullshit. I think you're full of shit. And I think you need to rethink your choices. And I think you need to make better calls. And the reason that you need to make better calls is if you have people who rely on you, if you've got people who want you around, who depend on you, kids, wife, husband, whoever.
Ask them. Seriously, chef, if you're listening to this now, if you're this far into the podcast, close your eyes and put yourself into your loved one's position and ask them, do you want me to be gone all week, every week for my job, for my career? If the answer is yes, you might be delusional. As Chef just said, as Cam just said a second ago, and he wasn't being harsh, I'm calling bullshit as well. You ask your wife, ask your husband, ask your kids if you have them. And if you don't have a partner, ask yourself, why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. Who are you really, really doing it for? And take yourself out of the moment of where you are and the actual the chef life, bravado, the ego. Take yourself out of that for 1 second and ask yourself, who are you doing this for? And if you think about it really, really carefully and you end up with the answer of my boss, you're in the wrong fucking game. You need to be doing it for yourself or for somebody else that isn't your boss.
Totally. So we think about then if that's the main point, then it's like, where do we find the solution here? Where do we find the fucking, you know what I mean? What's the avenue to get over this shit? Like, one thing you got to realize that if you're in this game for money, like,
you're in the wrong game if you're in it for money.
But there's easier ways to make a living. So it's like,
you better believe it.
So unless you're falling into that very slim percentage, like that top 1 or 2 or 3% of, chefs who will eventually
0.012 or 3%.
Fact. Yeah. Okay. That's probably better. So it's less than 1%. You know what I mean? Less than 1% if you're lucky. of chefs who eventually, over the course of 15, 20, 25 years of grafting in the fucking trenches, develop their skill set to the point where, and fucking develop the fucking savviness around business to open their own place and eventually take the restaurateur route and eventually go on that. Now, you could probably name off the amount of chefs that have done that in your own country on fucking two hands. You know what I mean? And there is close to 100,000 chefs in UK, and there's probably tens of thousands in Ireland. You know what I mean? So it's like, let's think about this for a second. That's avenue number one, which is probably not going to happen. So if that's your money route, okay, cool. If you're not going to achieve that, where are you fucking left with?
But is that even worth it, Cam? Sorry, is that even worth it?
Depends on what you want, but I really feel...
Yeah, but like to kill yourself for all them hours for 20, 30 years to then get rich or get well off, is that worth?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
You know what I mean? You're going to do that to get your kids into a good college, but would, you know, have your kids being raised in a creche from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock. Is that what the kids want?
Yeah, totally, 100%.
You know what I mean? Even if you get to the top, you don't get to the top by doing 40 hours a week for 20 years. You don't.
Totally, yeah, 100%.
So if you're going to do it and get to the top, what it costs is not worth it.
Yeah, so you're going to sacrifice to get there as well. Do you know what I mean? You're going to sacrifice things that shouldn't be missed, like time with the family and all of those things. So it's like that's one of the avenues. Like, if money is your key, if that's your thing, game over. It's done. There's easier ways to make a living. Do you know what I mean? So we think about solutions here. Either, I feel a lot of the time, a fucking stern conversation, like a very real, if you really feel that you're fucking the owner of the business that you work in, your boss, if you really feel that they value you, you know what I mean? And they're worth breaking their bollocks for, sure as fucking shit, you should be able to have a conversation with them. Sure as fucking shit, you should be able to have a conversation with them. And if you can't have a conversation with them, that's a fucking issue. That already tells you. Like, if they're not willing to have a conversation about the fact that you're contracted for 40 and you're working fucking 80, and there's a massive disparity between the hours that you're working and the hours that you're paid, it's like, what the fuck? What are we talking about? Why is this even a thing? Oh, well, they're taking care of me. They haven't. You're fucking full of shit. You're full of shit. If you can't have the conversation, you're wasting your time in the first place. But if you can have a conversation, then what needs to happen is you need to very, very sternly communicate the facts. This is what I'm contracted for. This is what I'm paid for. What's this? You know what I mean? Like, something's got to happen here. Something's got to change.
I've had that conversation. I've had that conversation loads of times. Yeah. Every chef has had it. Yeah. And the boss will say, the boss just gives you the same spiel. Every single boss does, especially in the catering industry where you're not part of a bigger group of people, because chefs are lone wolves when it comes to their employment and their conditions. There's not like you don't have a union. There isn't the chefs union that everybody gets the same, and there's pay scales, and you work this and you work that, you period that long, you get this amount of money.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen. So if you go and have that conversation, like, last week we were down and I had to work it, so I don't mind. This week it looks like I'm going to have to do it again, but I'm not getting paid for that. So what's going to happen now? And they're just going to say, well, what do you expect me to do? I can't hire somebody else. I mean, that person's out sick. That person's just disappeared. I mean, what are we going to do? Hire somebody else? You're not going to get somebody else in this amount of time. You're just going to have to do it, Peter. End of story.
Yeah. And
then you can like it or you can lump it.
Yeah.
And you can go back in there and do the same thing and do as many hours for your 40-hour salary, or you can fuck off, walk out the door, and then he will go, oh no, he's not going to lose sleep over you. He's going to go, right, I need somebody else. I need a chef. Chef comes in. They need the job because they don't have a job. And they'll say, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And then they'll go in. And then your previous owner that you think really, really cared about you forgets your name.
Totally. 110%. Which tells you that they're not worth breaking your bollocks over. Number one. It's not that there isn't good employers out there. There isn't good employers. They're just very few and far between. The good majority are archaic, and a lot of these restaurants need to change how they fucking do business. That's the reality. You know, they don't fucking employ correctly. I've mentioned it before, but I really, you know, my brother's place, Friday Jones, is like everyone gets paid the fucking same. He's the head chef and the owner, and he gets paid the same as the fucking, you know, the new guy who's fucking serving tables. Everyone gets paid a flat rate on a weekly basis, and everyone gets an equal share of tips. That's it. Done. Over. That's, you know what I mean? Obviously, he owns the business, so whatever profits fucking come in, he stands to profit. But it's like, that's the pay structure. And they're set hours, and it's like, we're open 5 days a week. We don't open fucking 7 days a week. We're open 5 days a week. And you're expected to work, you know, you work one double, two splits, and, you know, two lates, which means that you have 2 days off, 2 days where you're not in till fucking mid-morning lunchtime, and then 2 days where you have a 2 to 3 hour break in the middle of the day, and then you have 1 day of death, you know, which is still hard work, but it's fucking work. It's manageable. You can build your fucking life around that. And as Peter said, my brother has built a life around that, and he runs the place, and he's still fucking active, and he's able to do all of these things. But like that, for me, from the outside looking in, that would be the minimum that I would be like, if it's like, you know, that setup there would still be a bit fucking squirrely. Like I've seen him in other places where he was the head chef, and he's like, no one here is doing over 4 days a week. So he got it to the point where he said to the owners, and it's like, no, we're fucking, this is one of the biggest restaurants in Dublin. He said, listen, we're doing fucking, everyone in this kitchen is going to do a 4 day week. I don't care. You know, no one's doing a 5 day week. Everyone is a 4 day week. We're closing a Sunday, we're closing a Monday, and then they will get 1 day off other than that. And whatever way we need to roster and structure things to make it work, we'll make it fucking work. You know what I mean? And it did work. And the happiness that those chefs got was like second to none. But like that's when people generally give a fuck, and the head chef's willing to fight for that, and he has a bit of sway. Fair enough. That's not always the case. But in these situations where you're just getting fucked over, man, with hours and all of that, it's just like something needs to change. So if you can't change from within, you have to fucking walk out. And you walk out into what options? I suppose like agency and contract catering is the way to go.
That's what I was going to say. I'm not going to, like, the company that I work for, I don't like working for big companies. There's too many bosses and blah, blah, blah. You can't say boo. Everything is rape.
Totally.
But you know, I have my 37 and a half hours.
Everything is rape.
Oh, you can't say that. That's rape now. It's 2019. No use here. Excuse me.
Did you just assume my gender?
Yeah, but I know for a fact in Ireland and England, the company that I work for is one of the biggest employers of contract catering, and they are always screaming out. There is more work, better paid, better conditions than there is restaurant jobs going out there for chefs, and people don't see that. And I worked for an agency for 2 years. I can't recommend that more as well. You know, you're not going to be taking in as much money, but your headspace is going to be fantastic. And when I was in the agency, that's when I noticed that there is more contract catering jobs out there than, and this isn't what this podcast is about. This is just about that. This point is just that there are more jobs out there. When we say you don't have to do it, you don't have to take it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do them conditions. Mm-hmm. There's always other options out there.
Totally. I think this is the whole point of this thing is I'm sick of hearing that I'm doing 120 hours this week. I've had 2 people walk out, and this is just the way it is, and I haven't seen my fucking, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you're making.
Why did they walk out as well? You know what I mean?
Like I met, like my last job in the service industry. I'm not going to say where it was, but it's like the way we were working was insane. You know what I mean? And I was at my fucking worst. I made a decision after that to never step foot in a restaurant again, ever, after those fucking couple of months. Because you were talking like, I was starting at 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m., and then going all the way through to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, breaking it down, having a drink after, going home, smoking a joint, and getting about fucking 3 or 4 hours sleep, and then rolling into work and doing it again. And I was doing that fucking, you know, that was 3 or 4 days throughout the week. And then we had one day where it was like just a fucking 12-hour day, you know, and I did that. I remember doing that for a couple of months, and I was like, this is not, and I used to wear that there was that badge of honor until it wasn't, until I couldn't handle it anymore. And I realized what a fucking moron I was for even accepting that in the first place, you know? And I realized that it was like, I'm going to fucking change my life. I'm going to fucking make something happen here. So that's what has manifested me getting to this point where it's like, became a personal trainer, became a strength and conditioning coach, became a fucking, you know, qualified in everything I needed to learn and what I was passionate about. And then I was able to create Chef Fit a couple of years later. You know what I mean? But that never would have come about if I had just not put my foot down and gone, I'm never ever walking into that again. I'm never ever doing that shit again. That is fucking bullshit, because there's no way to live. And it's only, I'd say in the past year, I've only really got a sense of what my life is actually, because even when I was, you know, personal training and I was like, yeah, I got more freedom, but actually I ended up falling into a similar trap there because I was still privy to someone else's schedule. So I was still doing 7 a.m. starts and finishing at fucking 10 p.m. You know, so I was still going through that full day and it was still death. And I hated what I was doing again because I was so burnt out. And I realized that it's like I never actually got to experience life like I spoke about. It was always the horizon thing. It'll be fine when I get to here. When I started this, it's given me that clarity to go, this is the way I want to live my life, you know, and no one's going to fucking dictate that to me. Now, I'm very grateful for the ability to do that, you know, but at the end of the day, I had to fucking create the fucking thing, you know, and I had to cultivate fucking skills around it. But again, it comes from this place of not accepting the fucking bullshit and the slave mentality, which is what a lot of you have. You have a slave mentality where you just kind of keep taking it on the chin, you know, and it's grand and, you know, fucking, don't know what quote I was about to put in there, but it's like you keep accepting it. So stop accepting it, because it's not just you who's suffering. It's the fucking people who depend on you who suffer. Subscribe to the channel, thumbs up the video, share it on your social media platforms, especially this video, especially this podcast. This one's been a fucking fairly powerful one, to be honest. And I think it should definitely, if this resonated with you, you need to share this on Facebook. You need to put this in your Instagram story. You need to fucking tag people who need to hear it, you know? Like, this industry is not going to fucking change unless people start putting their hands up and start doing something about the fucking industry, you know?
Yeah.
My message here and what me and Peter are always going on about is that you need to be the fucking change. You need to be the change. You need, as an individual, to make a fucking call, make a decision. I'm not going to accept this anymore. And I'm going to make better choices in my life. I'm going to make better decisions around how I take care of myself. And therefore, I'm going to make better decisions in my career. And in doing that, you will start to change. We will start to change the narrative of this fucking industry, which is currently a load of shit. So with that in mind, that's our podcast for today. Thank you very much. We'll catch you.
Peace.